Will democracy survive the next couple of years?
Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, The Answer Company. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center and medi-spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org. Edina Eye Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years now, in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services and dedicated specialists committed to excellence, with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Access to Democracy. Welcome back to Access to Democracy. We're in the studio. We're thrilled to be here. I'm Michele Engdahl, and I'm your host today. Joining me is Ann Bailey, the president of DARTS. Hi, Ann.
Hey, Michele. Great to see you in person.
So good to see you in person. I'd give you a big hug, but, you know, COVID. So anyway, welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here. I'm so glad to be here with you in person. So tell everyone what DARTS is. Talk about your mission.
Absolutely. DARTS is a local nonprofit. Our mission is creating connections that enrich aging. We serve Dakota County primarily, and we stretch broader depending upon the service. So a lot of the services that we provide are services that help an older individual stay in their home of their choice. So we will do things such as lawn mowing, yard work. We're in the throes of fall raking right now, getting people's yards ready for the winter. We will work on things such as snow shoveling and help keep people's sidewalks clear for the winter time. A lot of house cleaning, so we call it homemaking because it could be light meal preparation, could be laundry services. And then we do a lot around the person caring for an older person. I was in a meeting earlier this week and I said, how many of you mow a lawn or grocery shop for someone older than you? And everyone out of probably 45 people raised their hand. And I said, surprise, the label that you're not giving yourself is caregiver. And we do a lot to support people like that who are actually caregivers for somebody in their life.
Neat. And in the spirit of full disclosure, I serve on the board of directors of DARTS. It's my pleasure, and I am grateful for the opportunity. So we talked on Access to Democracy 11 months ago, and a couple of things. We're 11 months older than we were.
We are.
And so is everybody else.
They are.
And we can't stop that. So let's talk about what's happening. How is the new year treating you?
So in the things that we could not stop, DARTS could not stop serving people. During the time of COVID shutdowns, we were still there. We were helping people. In many cases, we were helping people differently than we had helped them before because they didn't necessarily want somebody in their house for a long period of time, but they still wanted a quick cleaning. So some of our services changed to adjust, but we didn't do things the same way as we did before. And then we did continue to do transportation, and we added things to that, like helping to bring groceries to people so that they had the supports that they needed. So that certainly continued to go on. The thing that we've seen growing, and it was even when we talked, I think last November, we were seeing it, what we've seen growing is that that pain from isolation. So the depth of people feeling out of sorts. I don't even, it's not to overuse the word isolation, but that getting used to not seeing people in person is causing different behaviors. And we're seeing it with our Learning Buddy volunteers who are back in the school as they're working with young students. How those students interact with adults is different than it used to be because they haven't been interacting with stranger adults for a year and a half. And similarly with our older adults that even maybe live in a congregate setting like an apartment, who's willing to come out of their house to an event, who isn't. Some people are throwing caution to the wind like freshmen in college, and some people are so shuttered in. So it's been really intriguing to see the toll that mandated isolation has taken.
So you've started one of the three things that I want us to talk about and kind of weave together: isolation, connections, and thriving. And we can wrap all of that in COVID-19 because we can't not wrap it all in COVID-19. But let's keep talking about isolation, and let's understand what isolation means. The CDC says that a quarter of people 65 and over are experiencing social isolation. I can see it in my parents, my mother-in-law, people I know. I feel it myself. So talk more about your work and sort of the science of isolation and what you're doing to help alleviate that.
I love the stat from the CDC. The other statistic study that was done several years ago through AARP is that in an older person, which older person usually means 65 and older, the health effects of isolation are as detrimental to your health as smoking 65 cigarettes a day. So that seems astounding, and I've heard people say, oh, that can't be. If you think about it, somebody who's isolated, it means that maybe they don't have transportation, so they might not be eating healthy food. They might not be eating food that is not expired, those types of things. It's also that interpersonal connection, and I think COVID gave us all a taste of that mental health piece of it, and it's movement. So if you're isolated, you're not able to get out through choice or through health reasons, that movement, that ability to walk a little bit, even if you're not getting 10,000 steps a day, I bet there are a lot of people that we work with who aren't getting 1,000 steps in a day. And so being able to combat that helps. That's why the 15 cigarettes a day stat is there. The programs that we do, when we provide something like home cleaning or home repairs, I was just talking to somebody about, sure, we could come and change a faucet for you. Those programs, services, when you get those through DARTS, as a person age 50 and older, you're eligible. When you get those services through DARTS, we build in time for a conversation. And that's always been a part of DARTS. That's why our mission is the creating, you can't talk about isolation without connections, and that's why the mission is creating connections. So that's a part of it. The other thing that we've seen that helps, or things that we're doing to help get people back out of their apartments, DARTS provides services that we call care coordination in apartment buildings, so senior living apartment buildings. And care coordination means that we're helping people find the resources that they need. And when we provide those services, we're getting to know the people in that building. We're understanding what they might like to do to keep themselves a little more active. And one of the buildings where we provide those services in South St. Paul, a group of right now it's all women, said, we want to walk. And so a walking club got started, and once a week they get together, they have a little route that they go on. We always have one or two staff people with them because it's, never an easy thing to walk on a sidewalk without a railing handy. So we have a couple of staff people available in case somebody needs an arm to get over a curb, and off they go. Those are the types of things that we're finding that we're being more creative now to think about how can we help to combat isolation.
I couldn't agree more with all of the things that you're saying, and I think about my folks and how, you know, walking to the mailbox is not enough, right? It's just not. And so how do we, my siblings and I, look for ways to go somewhere, do something? And they're doing it themselves. Things certainly have loosened up since a year ago at this time, but it is, it's sort of sad. This little guy some days, working from home,
Right?
the number is not good.
Right?
And I am perfectly physically able, and the number is not good.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move from isolation to connections, and this is what DARTS is so good at and so necessary. How talk about the work you do to connect people and even online, and how that has blossomed because of COVID. We're not going back, which is great, I think. So talk about that.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things, you know, it's in the heart of the pandemic, and I think we talked about this last time, in the heart of the pandemic, it's easy to get all caught up in the negatives. And we as an organization looked for places where we could learn and grow. To say that this pandemic is crummy, it's not what any of us thought would ever happen in our lifetime or would have chosen. If we could go back and undo it, we would. And what can we learn from it? What roses can we take out of this nettle field? And one of the roses was understanding technology. And we've seen a couple of different changes. We've seen older people who, like my mother-in-law, yeah, they were kind of interested in technology, but didn't have a real need day to day. We'd given her an old tablet, and that really wasn't cutting it. So early in the pandemic, we got her a nicer tablet so that she could really engage with Facebook conversations and keep more current because of that, play cards online as her kids are not all in the same town and when we couldn't get together. So we've continued to do some of that online interaction, even while we're now back to being able to go visit her. So that's what we're seeing with our older adults, is that there's little nuggets that we're keeping. From a DARTS perspective, one of those nuggets was that our caregiver support groups, so again, all of you people who don't acknowledge that term in your life, like Michele, who's really a caregiver, like her husband, who's really a caregiver, and doesn't acknowledge that term, for you, if you want it, there are support groups. And traditionally, those support groups have met face-to-face in a room, and it's a great opportunity for you to say out loud something that others hear without judgment, and they hear it with understanding. And one of the most powerful ones that I remember hearing discussed was a support group came in, and one of the people in the support group said, I had a dream that something happened and I was arrested and I was put in jail. And everyone's kind of, oh, that's a terrible dream. And she said, no, the terrible part of the dream was in jail, I was my happiest. I didn't have to take care of anyone but me. Food was brought to me. And that should have been, somebody who's not caring for somebody might have said, oh my gosh, what a horrible thing. But everyone in that caregiver support group understood and empathized. Some even said they had had similar feelings. So that's what these caregiver support groups do for people. Again, COVID, we couldn't meet in person. We had a couple of groups, so we offered options. Some people just got on the phone and talked on the phone. Some people dropped out for a little while or just individually talked with our social worker. But there was a core group that started Zooming for their support groups, and they enjoyed it. And so that Zoom group has actually replaced the evening group that was in Egan, because it's easier than worrying about driving at night. It's just easier, and that core group can pop in and then pop back out. It's a little bit more efficient. So we know now going forward that our complement of support groups will include an online version, because for some people that works. Looking back to 15 years ago when I was caring for my dad, I probably still wouldn't have gone to a support group because that wasn't really how I was wired. But if I was going to, an online one that I could have popped in and out of would have at least been a good entry point for me. I might have turned over then and decided it was somebody that I wanted to meet with in person, but I might have at least tried it if it was online. The other piece of online that we've seen, we've grown our ability to do, and we coincidentally last year had a grant from the Department of Human Services. The state of Minnesota funds dementia education, and we had a grant through the state for dementia education, and so we had to move that education to an online format, and we got our webinar license, and we're finding a lot of good traction. We've had a lot more hits on our YouTube page than we had previously, so we're seeing people again embracing those online mediums. And what's really great about that, again reflecting on when I was working full-time and more at Target Corporation and caring for my dad, a quick hit online 3 to 5 minute video might have helped me, and it wasn't available at the time. So we're finding more engagement from those working caregivers that just need that quick fix, and now they know to call us when something bigger is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I can speak personally. My mom uses hearing aids, and I don't think they're strong enough. And so I was just having a conversation with you about who can I call other than an ENT and to, go to a doctor about it. Is there sort of a network or an avenue to understand what the best way for her to be tested and to understand what might be out there just as a better option for her. Right. So I want to hold up the newsletter that I get as a supporter of DARTS. And one of the things that I think DARTS is good at, and I'm going to brag for you, is that you see something and then you're like, wait a minute, but that also can be other things, right? Mm-hmm. So talk about the PSA project and how that became a way to connect people, but that wasn't what it was supposed to be originally. Right.
So one of the real privileges of being in the community or in the Dakota County community, and I think it's out there, is the partners that we have. Thomson Reuters is a fantastic partner, and Comcast has been a fantastic partner for DARTS for many, many years. We run little quick advertisements about the home services piece on Comcast, and you would see them if you're in, I believe it's Burnsville and Inver Grove Heights, who usually get those ads. And so Comcast offered to film a PSA for us, a public service announcement. And so that is just meant to be a little snapshot of the various services that you do. So our communications team said, well, let's go talk to some of the older people that we're supporting and have some conversations and kind of build some live action, rather than just still photographs. So our two communications people went out, met with a couple of people who are clients of DARTS, and there's no audio in the tape. There's no audio of their conversation. They just chatted. And so chatted away with these people, and now there are these friendships that they call each other. They check in a little bit more. That's all it took. Similar story is at our bike sale. Not our bike sale. There's a gentleman named Rick Anderson who hosts a bike sale every year, and so the proceeds benefit both DARTS and Kids in Kinship, which is a youth mentoring organization. So you get kids of all ages coming to find a bicycle. They could be 5 years old, they could be 95 years old. And there was a woman shopper who was closer to the 95 end of the range, who was talking with our communications person who is newly out of college, so about that age. And they struck up a friendship and made a date to go bike riding together. And those intergenerational connections, back to your connection theme, you can look up studies on the benefits of intergenerational connections and how that really helps both ends of the equation. And I think for us, as we get older, having somebody younger than us, I remember saying to my dad once, friend of his had passed away, and I said, "Are you going to go to the funeral?" And he said, "I don't know. All I ever do is go to funerals." So when you have more friends that are different ages, you don't feel like every friend you have is dropping off. And I think that really is a huge benefit to both ends, right? I learn a ton from my older friends, and it's a benefit both directions, but I think particularly for an older person, it keeps you understanding what younger people are worried about.
Is there, and I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but I know that there are doctors, retired doctors at the Mayo Clinic who are, they're like, use me as a guinea pig, I'll help you figure out what aging is like as you sort of watch me in my apartment or in my condo or home. Are there technologies out there that you are like, wow, we are on the brink of really figuring out how to keep Susie or Sonia or Sally in her home longer, because some of this I know already exists, like if the milk carton has been touched, or if so can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing?
I'm not an expert on the technology side. Yes, there are a lot of technologies out there, and I think what's really great about the technologies is the breadth of what those technologies can do. There's something, as I'm going to say the word simple, a motorized cat or dog. So somebody who's in a living facility that doesn't allow pets, usually it's somebody with memory loss, gets that comfort of feeling that animal purr or have that warmth and that motion. It's like they own their own pet, right? That's very comforting. There are certainly the technologies that are monitoring steps, that are monitoring was the refrigerator opened. We did a program with a company called Care that's doing a health a medication dispenser. Those are existent already. That's not the new part. What they were combining it with was the telemedicine conversation, three-way conversation. So it would be the older person in their home, the primary caregiver of that person. So maybe in your example, if your mom had a medication that she needed and you felt like she needed a little bit of coaching monitoring, your mom would be in her place on the screen, you would be in your place on the screen, and then the physician's office would be on the screen. So that three-way conversation, so mom could say, yeah, I took it, but every time I take it, my stomach hurts. And then the physician could say, maybe have some milk. And you as the caregiver are hearing that. So Care is doing really great work with that, and I think getting ready to go more broadly launching with that service. So there are really great technologies out there that are helpful, and I will put a little pitch into everyone to make sure that we're watching, and again, a little rose out of the pandemic, really support our legislative actions to get broadband everywhere. Because in the Twin Cities area, we can say, oh, there's all these technical solutions. My mother-in-law doesn't live that far outside the city of Austin. Some of these things wouldn't work because they don't have consistent internet. So I think when you think about what can we do to help, the technology's there, and there's an equity piece. We need to make sure that it's actually available for everyone.
That is an excellent point. And when we talk about isolation, when we talk about connections, we need the technology infrastructure to help not leave people behind.
Right.
So let's pivot now to thriving, and how do people thrive? So what's the secret, Anne, and what's DARTS' role, and what does the word thrive mean to you?
Well, the secret might be when our volunteer Doreen turned 90, she said bowl every week. I don't know if that really is the secret, but that was her secret. I think probably more to the point of her secret was she continued to stay engaged. Right? She volunteered with us every week. She had her bowling group that she did. She had her family around her. She was plugged in. And so I think the more that we can do as an organization to help people continue to be plugged in leads to that fulfilling aging journey. So we talk a lot about providing services that help people continue to live in the community that they want to be. Because if I grew up in West St. Paul and then had to move to downtown Minneapolis in order to find a place to live as my needs advanced, that might not feel as good to me. I mean, honestly, we pulled my dad from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and brought him up to Roseville, Minnesota. It was more convenient for us girls, but it meant Dad's friends weren't available and his brother weren't as readily available to visit him. So the better that we can do to keep somebody in the home of their choice, and I use that term home as in the four walls that surround you that are better than just four walls, right? That they have interactions, they have connections, they have places where you can still volunteer to the capacity that you have. You know, that's the Learning Buddies program. The Learning Buddies are people that go into schools and read or do math or whatever the schoolwork is with young elementary students. There's also an offshoot of that program called Pen Pals. Some people, as they age out of wanting to be in the studio or in the school, then they still can be interacting and getting communications back and forth.
I love it. I love it, Ann. I love your comment about bowling. My mother-in-law is a bowler, and she's on 2 bowling leagues, and I said, you must really love to bowl. And she was so funny. She's like, it's not about the bowling. It's about the being together. Right. It's about seeing these gals, and now there's guys in their bowling league, and it's wonderful. And we laugh because she's actually now a pretty good bowler because of her bowling league.
Well, it's good motion. Right?
It's good, right? It's good motion.
Movement.
It's good motion. Yes. So, all right. So let's, as we start to wrap up here, let's talk about how people can get involved with DARTS.
Well, usually I say volunteer, but I'm going to even say if you would like to be involved and earn a little extra spending money, we have paying positions that are available. We always need people who are willing to do that homemaker role. You can do it for as few as 4 hours a week or as much as you want to, up to 40 hours a week. It's a physical job in some cases, but that's a great opportunity. And we also need drivers, and we're willing to train on the CDL licensure, but we also need part-time drivers for our buses and our vans. So we have 2 different options of vehicles. All of those positions come with paid time off, so that's a really great option. Volunteers, we need snow shovelers. Snow removal is going to be huge this year. Hopefully it won't snow over amount, but we need people to clear driveways and sidewalks for older adults. Tell a story. Share your story of aging. Share the story of where DARTS might be able to help. Send people to our website or to DARTS. That's always help. And then if you have the capacity to give financially, give financially. That's always a great resource too. So any of those things, everyone's capacity is different. Thank you for having me, Michelle. It's always great to be able to tell a few stories and to see you and hear the perspective that you have.
Well, thank you for joining me. And you have a saying that says, help really helps. I mean, it's kind of simple, Ann.
So profound.
We need a t-shirt. We need a t-shirt that says help really helps. But it's true. And I'm grateful to be part of your organization as a volunteer. So good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yep.